Let's see how you do under pressure. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Hey, yeah, ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm cashing.
Welcome back, everybody. Jaysin Static with another episode of the interview series. I am Jaysin Static. You, sir, are
one only James Brady.
James Brady. How long have you been in the industry, pal?
8 years.
8 years.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. We've been talking a lot about wrestling here. I've got one more question before we wrap this whole thing up. Are you ready?
Send it.
What's the most challenging aspect of being a green wrestler, and how do you adapt, grow, and try to gain that knowledge to get past that green stage?
Man, for me, when I was green, I would say like having a job and being able to wrestle at the same time.
Okay.
That's something that nobody ever talks about. And it's a bitch and a half to have a job and wrestle at the same time. I've got 3 jobs and I've kind of figured it out, but starting out when you're green and not knowing enough, and you always want to be there, you always want to get the training, you always want to be on the road, you always want to make the next town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do that when you have a work schedule.
Right.
So for me, that was a challenge. Find a job that is accommodating. You know, it doesn't have to be the most fanciest thing. As long as you are taken care of and you have your shit taken care of, priorities.
Right.
Right. As long as you can get on the road, Sick days are a thing for a reason. You got vacation hours for a reason. And if you don't have those things, quit the job. Like I've quit so many jobs just trying to get to the next town. Job hopping was a thing for me. It was a challenge for me to have a set job. And to be honest with you, I still don't have a set job. I'm hopping around at every state, every city I go. It's a different job. It's a different thing. So the challenge that I still have would be that. And then, for green kids, I think that was the biggest challenge that I had.
So that's your biggest challenge.
For them, though, I don't know what it would be for them. I can't say.
It would definitely be different for everybody.
Sure.
Like back in the day whenever I started, I had a full
economy was different.
Economy was definitely different back in. It was definitely different back in 2007.
Yeah.
But I still
house. I was over there sucking on my thumb.
I still had a full-time job, but I was going to training, 3-4 days a week.
Sure.
Wrestling on Wednesdays, wrestling on Fridays, wrestling on Saturdays.
It takes a toll, brother.
And that type of wear and tear.
On top of everything else you got to do.
Yeah. So that goes, another question I have on the stack on top of that is having that type of stress and both physically, mentally, emotionally at times.
Sure.
How do you work in that dynamic? How have you personally dealt with that over the years?
I find pleasure in the chaos.
Okay.
I think the best thing that I've learned was to not get upset about things I can't control.
Right.
Yeah. It's okay if everything's on fire. Let's not have you on fire.
Right.
Staying calm in war type situations, for me, having my inner peace. My inner peace is my music. Like I make music. I'll plug that right now. So be on the lookout for that. But that's my therapy. That's where I go. It's an outlet for me. And in a world so chaotic and full of war, for me, when I'm doing that, I zone in, and that's my thing. So that kind of keeps me sane. Find something that you love to do that keeps you sane. I know you're busy. It's not about finding time. It's about making the time.
So you think it's good to have something else that can occupy your time away from the chaos of the wrestling world?
I think you should always be doing something you're not good at also.
Okay.
Like painting or bowling or just something, challenging yourself but having fun with it.
Okay.
You're going to walk a lot farther in life if you fall in love with the journey versus if you fall in love with the bigger picture. These people get so obsessed with the picture, the money, the fame, the cars, that they get these things and it's empty and they feel
trying to get to the next show, trying to get that next booking.
Fall in love with the journey. You'll walk farther than anybody else.
Okay. So like what you're saying, do you think what is for you, what was one of your biggest, when you first started venturing out, like you started in the St. Louis area, what was one of the biggest things as a green guy coming up in the game that you had when you first, say, like when you went to Santino's or one of the other companies that you went and trained at?
Sure.
What was that biggest differences that you had going in between different companies and learning different ways of how, because Santino Brothers is completely different than, you'll learn a completely different style and way of doing business. What was, because what we're talking about is gaining the knowledge in professional wrestling, and the knowledge that you got from Dynamo is going to be different than the knowledge that you got from Joey and Santino.
Yes.
So what was the differences there that you learned, and how did you essentially put that into your wheelhouse of growing and learning?
So for me, here I was able to like focus on my footwork, focus on all fundamentals and everything. Going to LA, going with Joey and all that, it's like, okay, we're not taking time for that. We're taking time for the stuff you never do, the stuff that you're scared to do, the stuff that you got to be uncomfortable being. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
Right. That's where I learned how to succeed. I love being uncomfortable. I thrive in it.
Right.
And LA taught me that. Joey taught me that. And I would have never found that out if I wouldn't have taken a chance on myself throughout the chaos.
Right.
Yes, life was going crazy and everything, but I still had to pull the trigger on something.
Mm-hmm.
It's life-changing.
Right.
I'm far away from my family. I'm sacrificing I'm missing funerals. I'm missing birthdays. I'm missing everything. I'm missing Christmas, for God's sake.
Right.
To chase a dream. Right.
Right.
And I'm barely getting by. I'm not making a shit ton of money, folks, but, finding things that, for me when I was there, what was worth it? Going to the beach.
Okay.
Soaking it in every day. I'm in California. There's the beach.
Right.
That was my get away from the chaos. Give me these 2 minutes with the beach.
Right.
I'll make it for the rest of the week.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but it was very different. Territories are a real thing. We were talking about that earlier as well. The way they train in St. Louis is completely different from how they train in Texas, completely different how they train in New Jersey versus LA. They're just different caliber of wrestling, different kind of fans, different kind of taste, flavors.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing. So for me, I always want to stress that to the greenies. Get out, learn as much as you can. Never stop learning. I don't care if you're 18, 20, 30 years in, you should always be learning. If you love what we do, I think you should always be trying to learn at least something, whether it be in the ring, out of the ring. I don't know.
No, man,
that's just me.
I 100% agree. Like I've if you've watched any of these episodes, and some of the people come back and watch all of them, and I don't know how many times I've stressed in these episodes, in this series since I've started it, is gaining the knowledge from anybody and everybody that you can find in the wrestling game, because you never know what type of knowledge they're going to drop on you that's going to open your eyes up to a different aspect of something that you might not have learned, something that you might not have learned from Sadie, sure. Compared to something that you might have learned from Joey.
Yeah.
Two totally different ways of training.
Absolutely.
Both have their great points, and I'm sure some of the things that you've learned from Sadie that you still use, some of the things that you learned from Joey use.
That's the beautiful thing about doing it. Not to cut you off, but like to be able to say, oh, I can take that, put it in my bag, take that, put it in my bag, take that, put it in my bag. And now I'm like 8 years in, I go to a different company, like Houston, Texas, and I'm able to pull something that I learned from New Jersey, 7, 8 months ago, you know? And it's something that maybe it's not on social media a lot right now. Maybe nobody's on TV's doing it right now. Maybe I don't see it being done consecutively on the indies.
Right.
This is something I can use. So that is something cool, and that I always try to push out. If you want your bag to be bigger, you got to go travel. You got to get mileage. You got to go learn.
Right.
Learn to be uncomfortable. Being a new guy in town is not fun at first.
Definitely not.
At first. But you gotta find comfortability in that, and you gotta love it, because you're only gonna feel like that once, and you're not gonna be able to feel like that again in that same state.
Right.
So.
No, I mean, I totally agree. When you're talking about finding comfort in being uncomfortable,
yes, sir.
Because, whether people want to admit it or not, pro wrestling it takes a huge psychological, emotional, and mental toll on you. And if you're not strong within yourself, being centered in yourself, you can get caught up into the chaos of what pro wrestling really is. And a lot of people, I've talked about the chaos of pro wrestling countless times over the years, and it's chaotic. It could be very vengeful and spiteful at times.
Isn't it kind of crazy how some of the most chaotic things in life can be so beautiful?
Exactly.
Women.
Exactly. I remember. I watched the video and Ultimate Warrior said this. And I'm passionate about being fucking passionate.
That's cool. I love that.
You know, so it kind of goes back to what you're saying. If you're passionate about what you do in this wrestling game, you should be passionate about learning all the facets of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Go out and if you grew up watching WWE in the 2000s, maybe venture out and watch WCCW at the Dallas Sportatorium in the 80s. Maybe go out and check out
drop Dr. Death. Anybody know who that is?
Yeah,
Haven't heard that name in a while.
Maybe
that's one of my guys.
You know, maybe go check out World of Sport in Europe.
Yes.
And in the late 80s and early 90s, all the stuff, wild stuff that they were doing. You know, maybe even go further back, going into the WWF back in the day with Jess McMahon. Hell, you could even go back further back into the wrestling business and go back into the early 1900s with guys like Frank Gotch, George Hackenschmidt. They literally had, I don't know if you know this one, little peep right here. They had a it was a one show, 50,000 people in Chicago for one match, just them. And they had like a 3-hour fucking match.
Oh, I love it.
Back in like 1910.
Is this Google information?
Yeah. Google it, man.
I'm gonna Google this shit.
Google it, man. Not the knowledge of like Abraham Lincoln, one of our fucking presidents. Yeah. One of the go-to fucking presidents, some people say. Some people say. We're not going to get political here. Some people say that. But he was a professional wrestler. Yeah. You can if you're in the Midwest, we're in St. Louis. We're literally 3 or 4 hours. We're literally 3 or 4 hours away from where he had his wrestling matches at. He was an Illinois State wrestling champion.
Yeah, Grant's Farm is down the road too.
Yeah, you know, so there's all kinds of wild knowledge that's out there on the internet. So if you're passionate about wrestling, like you said, look into the history of wrestling.
I've looked into the history of the city.
Yeah,
I love St. Louis. You know, and I've been to some really cool places, and I've met some really cool people, but like there's nothing like St. Louis culture. There's nothing like St. Louis toasted rabs. Oh,
it used to be the Mecca. It used to be the Mecca of St. Louis. It still can be.
Nah, man, I love St. Louis, and it'll always be.
I love St. Louis, but I have to be real. We've kept it real the whole time.
Weather's ass.
The weather's ass. It's horrible.
Not the good kind.
But there are a lot of areas in the wrestling world right now that's popping hard.
West Coast is one of them.
Check
out the West Coast if you haven't already.
West Coast is one of them.
Shit over
and I want the same.
Slice Boogie.
I want Slice Boogie. Hell yeah! I've watched them.
Dom Kubrick, Lucas Riley, El Primo Hino, Kodo Hero.
Facts. Check out
Cool, Angel Pureheart. Man.
There's like I said, it's popping in so many, and it's popping in its own little way here in the Midwest. Yeah. But it's not what it used to be, and it definitely can get back to where it was.
That's why I'm here.
Exactly. That's why James Brady's here. So, other than that, James Brady, you're back here in the Mecca of professional wrestling, St. Louis. You're here to revitalize the industry in the St. Louis area. Do you have anything to promote upcoming matches, upcoming shows, websites, merch sites, anything like that?
We're going back to Chicago. We're going back to Chicago in July.
Okay.
We're going to California in July.
Okay.
We're going to New Jersey in June.
Okay.
We got some stuff coming up. So follow me on The Brady J, all social media platforms. Keep up with me. I got some really cool stuff with my music, some merch coming out, and I'm going to be hitting a bunch of states this year. So.
We're going to be plugging all that stuff down in the comments section down below. Let me know if you've enjoyed James Brady over these last 3 episodes.
Thank you for your time.
I had a great time with you, James. I appreciate you, brother, for coming on here. I appreciate you for giving me your insights and feelings and opinions on professional wrestling. I'll definitely want to have you back on some more because I've got how many more? I've got 78 more questions to ask you.
Let's run it.
And we're going to run it. We're going to run it back again one of these days soon.
Didn't stump me. He was all talk. Just so we got the camera rolling. This isn't a gimmick. This ain't a promo, all right? This man was talking about, I'm going to stump James Brady.
We're going to try.
James Brady, I'm going to try to stump him. Guess what? He didn't do it.
We didn't.
So now you got 78 more opportunities, right?
That's facts, man.
You got to tune in 78 more times to see if we can do it.
Sometimes people get the best of me. Sometimes I get the best of other people. That's the way it goes.
Hey, I didn't think the Cubs would win a World Series.
No,
that's all I'm going to say.
It's no script off the rip. That's the way we are around here. But we're going to run it out just like we always do. Jaysin Static across all social media. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check me out. Fight Club Wrestling Academy. Facebook, YouTube. Check me out. Let me know how you like James Brady. And last but not least, I can't tell you the name of this new merch thing that I'm doing, but I peeped you on some clues, and maybe you guys can figure it out. I'm going to start dropping clues because hopefully within the next month or two, I'm going to be able to drop the first session of it. It's for the culture of pro wrestling. And that's where I'm going to leave it at. For the culture. James, take it easy, man. Good luck, man.